across America, looting has reached Eugene, Oregon. Five Guys, T-Mobile, Jimmy John's, and some other store.
Yeah.
For some reason, besides George Floyd.
What are they looking at to get from a Five Guys? They got sacks of potatoes in there.
I think because T-Mobile, I think that people were like, "Fuck, let's go loot, steal all those iPhones and shit," and then Five Guys is next door. Collateral damage.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. They've been closed since this COVID's been going on. So
Yeah.
They probably just were like, "Fuck it, collateral damage. Let's take care of it." That can't be the only standing store, or Five Guys was like, they were the ones that did the looting, and they're like, "Well, we can't have our store be the only one that's not fucked up. They're going to be suspicious." Psh, broke some glass.
Do you think it was an inside job? Do you think T-Mobile wanted to collect that insurance? And so they just sent one of their guys down. They're like, listen, break everything.
Probably. They're like,
also hit Five Guys.
They're like, hey, we just teamed with Sprint for 5G, and people still aren't coming towards us because we're fucking ass.
T-Mobile sucks.
Yeah.
Listen, if you got T-Mobile, cancel that shit.
Verizon.
Cancel T-Mobile. Cancel culture. T-Mobile, you're canceled.
Yeah.
Fake loot in your store.
I don't understand I understand this man was murdered by the police and shit went down.
We should start from the beginning. Is that what you were explaining?
Sure.
George Floyd. Do you know the whole story?
Dude kneeled on. 5 cops were kneeled on this man, and one of them was kneeled on his neck.
The facts currently are, man resists arrest. There was a forgery in progress. Get this. What the hell's a forgery?
He forged a check or
what
something.
The hell's a forgery in progress? So they get called to a forgery. There's a man in his car, and he's resisting arrest. So they pull him out, and then the video that everybody's familiar with, they're walking him. He doesn't really appear to be resisting arrest. And this is what I had a long talk with Melissa about, is that unless you do this and surrender yourself, you are resisting. So saying, no, I don't do that, that's resisting arrest. And then it's up to the cop to decide what to do from there to subdue you. And that's where people make the wrong choice. But he resists arrest, and then they use force to arrest him, and he fails. He ends his life. At some point. The autopsy hasn't come in as of today. 11 o'clock, May 20th? 20th? 30th? May 30th. There's no autopsy to show that he was killed by that guy. But the idea is that his actions have caused that guy's death.
Did you see the wrestling coach up in Washington who was trying to defend the police? He had one of his buddies or something. He was laying on the ground like George Floyd was. He had his buddy put his fucking knee on his neck, and he's like sitting there, thumbs up in the camera, and he's like, I could sit here all day and not die from this position.
Right.
And he got fired because of this. Because literally, like on Twitter, Facebook, people were like, "Here's this fucking guy. Here's who he is. Shout him out." And so then immediately got fired.
Everybody had to do their commitment signaling to the wrestling coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. The real issue is not really what's being blasted on Twitter. It's just that the policeman's, I forgot his name, his actions, indirectly or directly, to be decided by the autopsy, caused that man's death, and he is a policeman, so that's a problem. He's supposed to know better.
No, I was the more fucked up part of this whole thing is, how was the video captured? Someone sitting there going, this cop's on this dude's neck. He's saying he can't breathe.
I'm gonna just stand here and film.
I should go help that man. Nah, I'm just gonna stand back and film. I understand. Oh, I don't want to get in trouble as well. But if someone's dying and now he is dead, like, you gotta wonder if that person's going, I could have saved that man.
Absolutely.
Or if they're like, fucking newsworthy, I got the video.
That was my thought too. I would have went to jail to help him. Like, if somebody,
dude.
like, there's a point where, that guy is failing. He is in. That is a life ending right in front of me. I'm familiar with that site. We need to stop that right there.
I would be willing to yank a cop off.
That's right.
Of that person, and that sounded weird. Yank a cop off.
We're yanking cops, bitch.
To grab that cop and
you want to fuck
12. Pull him off of that man. And,
Christmas wants to fuck 12
and risk being in prison over filming a man dying.
Yeah, that's not good. I agree. Why didn't the bystanders help? They say there's a senator that says that the policeman failed in the most human way, because absolutely he did. He may have caused a person's death.
Yeah.
And I think the people watching also failed in the same human way that they can say.
And it's like if the cop is responsible for his death, why are we not holding the people filming accountable as well?
Sure, I absolutely agree with every cent of that. But what's being blasted on Twitter is police kill black people.
Yeah.
Joe Biden hopped on the press
I saw that.
in his backyard with a fucking mask on. Nobody around for like 30 feet in his own basement. He hops up out of the coffin to deliver an address. And he says, God, I have to paraphrase, and that's really bad for politics. He says something along the lines of, black people are hunted every time they leave their house.
Yeah.
And that is absurd. That is so untrue. And it's just playing to silly stuff. They say there's a pattern of riots back in 2015, which is oddly close to 2014.
Yeah.
But they talk about how riots not only happen, but there's a serious pattern to when riots happen. It is directly correlated to a Democratic win in the office. This is happening so many months before an election where there's a Republican in office, and these riots benefit the Democrats if portrayed correctly.
Yeah.
And so they say when Obama was being elected, they were rioting, and then when Obama was being reelected, no rioting.
Yeah.
And now that Trump's in office, these riots are happening, and the Democrats are like abusing that. That's why Joe Biden delivered his crazy address. And they keep, I want to direct this to, it's all police versus black people, and that simply shouldn't be the case. I don't think that is the case. I don't think there's a single person defending the actions of the dude who did this. Absolutely don't lean on a man's neck with your entire body weight for 5 hours at a time. But everybody's blaming it on the police. Like, it's not the police's fault.
Yeah.
There's 50, they got fired.
Yeah.
They got fired and are in prison. The
Yeah.
police, there's nobody defending that man. They shouldn't be, because he killed a dude possibly.
Yeah. Well, and that's the better half of this story, is that man is now in prison, or at least, detained for
Facing justice.
doing that. Yeah. Whereas, that dude, don't know his name, I apologize, the man who was shot in cold blood
Talking about Ahmed Johnson?
while running, is that his name?
The vigilante story?
Yeah. These two dudes, there's like, oh, we thought he was robbing or something. There's a report of robbery, and there's like, black dude. Bah!
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between this story and that story. They keep trying to bend it to a racism issue,
Yeah.
when in the story, in the facts, and what's been proven so far with both of them is it was a potential robbery, and the vigilantes were absolutely in the wrong. Don't kill people. That's bad. And then there is a potential crime being committed, and the guy resists arrest, and the guy kills him. Don't do that. You're allowed to resist arrest. It's part of your options, but you shouldn't be killed for doing so. If you're just not, like, if you're not cooperating, you shouldn't be killed for that. But there's no point where in either of the stories they said anything like, or has been proven, I'm going to kill this guy because he's black. That is not the case in either story, but that's all we hear. That's all the news plays. Fox News, CNN,
And,
blah, blah, blah.
Like you were saying about cops how not all cops are racist or bad or whatever. It's like, have you heard the Chris Rock joke? It's not really a joke. It's kind of a joke. Where he goes, there's sometimes there's bad apples in positions, and not all jobs can afford to have bad apples. Like, airlines can't go, yeah, some of our pilots like to land.
Some of them like to land in buildings.
Yeah. So, and that kind of resonated when I laughed, but I was also like, that makes sense. Like, as a police officer, as a someone who enforces the law, you can't put your own views and actions towards, I fucking hate black people, so if I see a black dude, game over.
Yeah, there's a difference between upholding the law and enacting justice and personal vendettas. Those are very different, and then any workplace should have that. You can say that about anything. And I think the stats are that in all of history, really, there was a time where America and policemen did things that didn't benefit black people, and then there was racism. That could be proven. Currently, the stats do not prove that. There's black folks who work, and this is going to look really bad because we're two white dudes talking about it. But it's really hard to get these ideas across to people because they're only willing to hear what the news says instead of looking into it themselves.
Virtue signaling. Yeah,
and when you look into it yourself, you find that there might be stories that contradict with what the news says, but nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to explain or contradict George Floyd died because he was black.
Yeah.
Because it's not as compelling. It's not a compelling story. It's silly. Think for yourself, please.
Yeah, and the argument that, well, if it was a white man doing this, they would have pulled him out of the car and just been like, oh, so you forging checks?
Yeah, but there's no stats to prove that, right? That's
Well,
just an anecdote.
Well, I know, and the fact is, this man may have been resisting arrest because he was black, and he goes, in history, there's a bad rapport of a black man being unjustly accused of something he didn't do, and that's probably why he resisted arrest.
But is that a good decision on his part? No.
Yes and no.
No.
You could argue either side, but
I don't know if.
now that he's passed, it probably wasn't.
Yeah, no, we're not gonna speak ill of the dead.
Yeah.
It's a tough situation, but I'd encourage everybody involved in whatever they're doing, whatever side of it they are, to seek the truth. Just find out what happened and decide how you feel on it based on your own personal preferences and not what Fox News tells you.
Yeah, and going back to rioting and looting, like why to remember this man and to try to get a point across, why go burn down police stations, stores, destroy businesses and shit to honor this man? You know, why not? Martin Luther King this shit and have a march. You know,
was he a looter? I don't know. Somebody tell me. Was he a looter, robber, stealer, burning, arson guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Was he that? Was he the best one of those ever? And that's why we're doing it to such a degree?
If he was those, I understand.
Picasso dies, we all paint paintings. Fucking Da Vinci dies, we start inventing shit. And when Beethoven dies, we listen to classical music. We play the best and create the best classical music. This guy dies, let's burn this motherfucker to the ground. Like, that's absurd.
Yeah,
that's no memorial. That's no memorial at all. You're not looting Target to remember somebody. You're looting Target because you want a TV
for personal
you're
gain.
A piece of shit.
Yeah, you're like,
that's stupid.
Well, the other people are doing it. I'm gonna go get the fucking flat screen TV.
Stupid.
Yeah,
that's insane. It's the same thing with the masks. I was preaching that the mask. This is how East Germany starts. Nobody says no because it's just just wear the mask. It's a sacrifice. You can do it. Just wear the mask. And then it's something bigger. This is the same thing. It's like, we're going to remember this guy and we're going to protest. Now we're fucking burning down Target. It's the same escalation, but the wrong way. It's like the left escalation versus the right escalation. Please stop burning down Target. It has nothing to do with this man. We can remember him.
The world we live in, the short-minded people.
You know what bothers me? People are capitalizing financially off this.
Yes.
Target's making insurance. Okay, great. But fuck all that. I'm talking about the social media posts. I usually don't block anything or like report anything, but I've been on Twitter, I've been on Instagram, and there's all these things that say, to support so and so, donate to this account.
Yeah,
that's bullshit, bro. That's going right into somebody's pocket.
Text Floyd to 51516.
Dude, that's just going right into somebody's pocket. Open your eyes, guys. Yeah. That sucks. I would be pissed if somebody did that.
The ones that I've been seeing, and I'm like, what the fuck, is like celebrities. Certain like Steve Carell,
Ice Cube posted about it.
No, like Steve Carell, fucking what's the dude who knelt Colin Kaepernick? These people, they're creating foundations and donating money to pay to get looters and rioters out of jail. And it's like, if that motherfucker wants to go rob a Target and burn down a police station, he should fucking be there.
These are crimes, right?
Yes, if it's a person standing for injustice and being on the steps of the courthouse there going protesting
within their rights.
And then they're getting shot with tear gas and being arrested,
we got a problem.
That makes sense. But when the headlines, and that might be the case, that might be who they're trying to pay for, but when the headlines are so and so has started a fund for rioters and looters, like, what?
It's so hard to know. And if you're gonna fund these rioters and looters, where's the line stop? Yeah. So-and-so was raping for George Floyd. Hold up, pause the bus.
We have to get him out.
What is happening right now? Yeah, that's absurd. It's a slippery slope. I totally agree with that. Please protest within your rights. That's what this country's for, but let's not go robbing people.
I believe there's a protest here in Eugene tomorrow.
Protests are great.
It's going to be on the
Leave T-Mobile
the
alone.
federal court step or whatever the fuck is downtown.
They do that a lot. Nothing really happens.
I know, but
it's frustrating.
It's going to be there.
I won't be there.
Neither will I.
we've just completely polarized ourselves on this platform too. If anybody's still watching, bless. We try to think rationally and logically.
Fuck them.
But if you're not watching because you're upset, fuck them.
Fuck them.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Another breaking news: SpaceX. They aborted their launch on Wednesday because of weather.
Hold on. Can we wrap up, George? We just
Okay.
solved the George Floyd issue,
Okay.
right? We just solved it. Completely solved it. Like if you think we solved George Floyd.
Yeah. Subscribe. Take friends.
Like if you think we solved George Floyd. Now tell me about SpaceX, buddy. Solved it.
They aborted their mission on Wednesday, and most people went,
Aborted.
yeah, or they shut down the launch.
They didn't launch it.
No, because of weather, and people were like, oh, why couldn't they just wait?
This is the. I'm trying to remember the NASA SpaceX launch to
Elon
the.
Musk, SpaceX.
Where are they going?
It's our first. They're going to the International Space Station.
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
Our first launch in the U.S. since 2002, I believe.
First privately funded launch ever. That
no,
wasn't
first manned space
Crude.
exploration from NASA
crude.
in the U.S. to manned, crude, either way.
They really don't like it when you say manned.
Well, I'm saying it.
Crude.
Manned, trans, woman.
No, that has nothing to do with it. It's like dead people can man a ship, but when you're crude, people are operating things.
Okay.
It's crazy.
First crude space exploration from the U.S. launch in 2002, I believe it was. But yeah, they aborted, or they didn't abort. They halted launch because of weather, and people were going, oh, why don't you just wait fucking 10, 15 minutes for the weather to pass? Well, there's trajectories. The space station's going to be in this place at this time, and also it was something with the fueling. It takes like 35 minutes from when the fueling begins to when they can launch, because it burns off some of the gases or something like that in the fuel system. What?
Your dog is making so much noise.
That's fine. I'm sure we'll fucking hear it in the background,
Jesus.
but it's not a huge deal.
The fuel vapors that loses in the rocket?
Yeah, and so if they would have waited, it would have fucked that up. And so they just halted launch until today. And so hopefully within, I think it's in the next hour or so, we will see a crewed mission.
There we go. We're doing it today. They're launching today then, huh?
Yeah, it's later today.
That's cool. I think that's pretty cool. I was under the impression that it was the first privately funded anything to do with space. Like, space has always been the USSR and the American governments, right? This is the first thing that's not U.S. government funded. It's Elon funded.
It's both. It's SpaceX partnered with NASA, and that's why we are launching.
Do you think they could do it without partnering with them? I'm sure they could.
Absolutely, but
What's the rules?
I think well, I mean, they've done like their test launches. They have like a site in Texas. I don't know if it's part of NASA or whatnot, but they've done like their tests where, because their rockets now, in the past, the boosters, everything would go up and separate, and then it would just, like, we have tons of debris floating around in the atmosphere, floating around Earth.
Okay.
And a lot of it will just come through and then burst, or like basically disintegrate as going through the atmosphere. But a lot of it stays in our orbit. And Garrett Reisman, he works for SpaceX. He did a spacewalk, and he spent 95 days up in space.
That's a long time.
I know. He was talking about how in the future it's probably going to be impossible to leave Earth's gravity or Earth atmosphere, because we have so much space junk floating around up there.
Oh, yeah?
That to create a window to get through that is going to be damn near impossible, potentially.
That's crazy.
And that's where SpaceX comes in, because their boosters will go up, launch them, and then they're able to come back down and safely sit down.
Oh, huh.
And
they don't cause all that debris.
yeah, and then they can be reused or
They're polluting the
recycled.
sky just like the ocean.
Yeah.
That's absurd.
Did you know that Jeff Bezos used his own money back? I think it was 2014, something like that.
Shout out JB.
He used his own money and was just like, I'm gonna go grab the rocket boosters from Apollo 11, the one that took us to the moon. They went out into the ocean, because all of the boosters would land in the same. It's all predetermined where shit's gonna land after the launch and blah blah blah.
Trigonometried out.
And so there's basically a pile of fucking boosters in the middle of the ocean, And so he started an exploration to go grab the boosters. They like confirm the serial numbers, all this shit. Yeah. And so he has the boosters from Apollo 11.
It's just fucking junk.
Yeah, he's just like fucking. I'll throw a couple million at it.
Jesus.
Pocket change, bro.
I guess. Guy's rich enough, huh? I have a question.
What's that?
What value do we put on space? I'm wondering. There's difference between planes and balloons with air traffic. But if you took off in a plane from your backyard and you flew towards an airport, you would get shot the fuck down. Like they would call you on the horn and shoot you down. If you fly a drone over an airport, you get shot down. There's a lot of rules. There's a lot of enforcement on the sky. So you can't just own a plane and start flying everywhere because you get in trouble. But if you were to have a boat and you went out into the ocean, nobody gives a fuck. There's people with boats all the time. Nobody has to tell anybody.
That's not entirely true. There are areas of the ocean where...
Are there?
This is restricted area. Yeah, fuck
in
yeah,
the
dude.
ocean? Or are we talking about in bays, like in people's houses?
In the ocean.
Where?
Well, mostly around... I mean, technically in
a country, right?
Well, it's like, say there's a Navy ship and you're X amount of miles away.
Is that really the case?
From this Navy ship, they'll be like, fucking turn around. Or like an oil...
so it's similar.
Oil, yeah. So, yeah. People
so then, is
have
that
boundaries.
Is that the same with space? If I just launched up into space, farmer builds a rocket in his fucking backyard, launches up into space, he pulls up to the space station. What's good, jeez? They'd be like, what the fuck? They space gun him to death? Or what's the rules up there?
They'd be like, you're hired.
What if you just wanted to go to the moon? And you were Jeff Bezos, you have all the money, you don't have to clear it with nobody. Do you have to clear it with somebody? Hey, yeah. I'm launching on the 3rd of May. I'm out. I'm going to the moon,
I'm sure
bitch.
There's regulations for that.
I got a whole space barn ready. We're going to the moon. Amazon's on the moon now. I want to know, what are the regulations?
Shipping packages from the moon.
That's right. It's just gonna be a big black box with a heat shield around it. We'll shoot it straight to your house.
Yeah.
Fucking front door crater in your house. That'd be hot, dude. How long does it take to get to the moon?
3 days.
3-day shipping anywhere on the planet, bro. Fuck Amazon 2-day. Amazon Prime is now 3-day from the moon to your doorstep. No mailman involved.
You will see the fireball.
No mailman involved. And you know when it arrives because there's a hole in your front door.
There's a crater in your yard.
So I've solved George Floyd. We've solved George Floyd. And I've solved fucking Amazon Prime.
I heard this on a podcast the other day. They were talking about how because we don't value, or we don't want to use nuclear fusion or nuclear energy.
Nuclear? Are you George Bush?
Nuclear. I know I said it funny. I realized I said it funny. But we don't want to use it because it's basically, you turn that fucker on, there's no turning it off. At least the older nuclear power plants. It's basically, if you turn that off, it's exploding. And they were talking about starting reactors on the moon, or creating energy on the moon, but then at the same time, it's how would you get that energy back to Earth, and at what cost? Like, it'd probably be more cost effective to do it on Earth, because if you did it up in space, how much energy would it take to get it here?
Right.
I thought that was ridiculous.
Isn't Elon working on wireless energy transport? Currently, there are wireless energy pads that are big enough to put on the ground that can keep small drones in the air indefinitely. Imagine that. Indefinitely. You never have to land.
That'd be neato.
You just get the power from the ground pad, and it can stay up there forever. Use that as a police force. You'd never get out of the house.
Yeah. Did you have you ever heard of, I think it was Nikola Tesla? He talked about wanting.
Excuse me, doggy.
Get your buns out the door. He was talking. He had the idea of sending electricity through the air.
Yeah, wireless energy transmission.
So you could just be like, and fucking turn on the lights.
Gandalf that bitch.
Yeah. Turn on the fucking lights. But then other people or scientists.
Scientists or Edison?
Smarter than us have talked about how that would basically set us back hundreds of years.
You can't do radio signals,
because
right?
you can do radio signals. We couldn't have, cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Any sort of real technology. I'm sure we'd find a fucking way.
Absolutely.
We always find a way.
Yeah. Wireless energy transmission is cool. Yeah, I think they say there's a lot of
by the way,
friction.
News segment is over, I believe. Fucking-
We're just talking now. There's
also, you're not even really on this camera.
Yeah,
But you're on
okay.
that one, so
It's all good.
we don't use this fucking one.
They say that there was a lot of toss back from Edison with Tesla because you couldn't make money off of the way Tesla was doing shit.
Yeah.
Tesla didn't want to make
And
money off of it.
I think it was Westinghouse was the company that was basically like,
They're still making TVs.
fuck that shit,
Yeah,
dude.
they're still
Yeah.
making TVs, bro. Fuck those guys.
we're like, we can't do that because how the fuck are we going to make money?
There's epic rap battles of history, which is Tesla versus Edison, and the final line is that because Edison is like a utility guy, he says if they found out that Edison stopped Tesla from making power free, that they would curse him.
Yeah.
They would like curse the con Edison. It's crazy because everybody they teach it in school that Edison's the father of the light bulb or whatever the hell. I did a report on him and I can't even remember shit about it. But he's the father of whatever.
He's a guy from history.
Yeah, he worked really hard and he did this, and this, and there's this whole other guy out there who just wanted to make it free for everybody, but got fucked. Nice guys finished last.
I think it's fucked how pretty much anything in history they go, there's a better solution, but that's going to cost us from making money.
Like what?
Like hemp, for example, back in the early 1900s.
A blue subject.
Not Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford, the president?
Whoever the fuck created Ford Motor Company.
Yeah.
Something Ford.
Henry
Ford. There you go.
Heinrich.
Hell.
Full on.
But they made like a Model T out of but the body panels were made out of hemp, and they're more
robust.
Robust, very pretty indestructible, and even like paper. The paper companies we could have had paper made out of hemp, a lot more cost effective, lasts longer, easily recyclable, and paper companies like.
I'd rather put chemicals on this.
Yeah,
bitch.
we're gonna cut down a fuck ton of trees, and you can produce. And it's insane because from like one, like here's a tree, takes up minimal space, can't really get a lot of shit out of it. A hemp stock, fucking massive, but you can get so much shit out of it. And they're like environmentally friendly. They're like, nah.
We support hemp here on Dose Bros.
Fuck yeah, dude, I'll fuck with it. I don't really understand it, but yeah,
it's a plant.
I had
make things.
I had shoes that were made out of hemp, some Vans back in the day.
Dude, the hemp Vans.
They were so fucking clutch.
Were they expensive?
And they were like regular Vans.
$65?
Something like that, yeah. And they lasted a
Did they
long
smell
time.
funny?
No.
Do your feet smell?
No.
Your feet don't smell?
They smell like pot, dude. Not everything smells like weed.
Just asking.
Going back to SpaceX and outer space, how you were saying outer space, do you think we're alone?
Do I think we're alone? I'm sitting here right next to you. We're
in
not
the
alone.
universe.
Do you believe is pretty big.
Do you believe aliens, UFOs, and?
No, I think those are totally different subjects. It's hard to lump them all together.
Are we alone?
An alien is anything that's not the same as you, right?
Yeah. Well, and when I've heard people discuss this, you gotta think, well, we're aliens. Like when we leave our Earth, we're the alien, you know?
Right.
Like the movie The Martian, he's the alien on Mars.
If when we talk about this, it's important to differentiate what we're talking about because people hear alien and they think green Martian guy.
Green or gray,
Like
huge head, super slender.
Or the green dudes from GTA 5, Green Gang.
Green Gang, dog.
Yeah, I don't know about the
Fucking cute
Green
those dogs
Gang
are,
and the
dude.
crazy shit that you see on the TV and the movies and all this UFO shit, but I think the universe is pretty damn big. There's a lot of stuff going on out there that we don't understand.
Yeah.
There's a whole planet made out of just gas.
Jupiter.
Neptune. Ain't no solid shit in there.
Jupiter.
Just a big bowl, but there ain't nothing hard. You can fly right through it, I think. I don't know. I don't actually know what I'm talking about.
You would burn up.
Spurious facts. It's made of cyanide. I don't know if that's true. They have a planet made out of Fruit Loops.
Do you think UFOs are real?
Unidentified flying objects. I think every plane that I look at and I can't identify as a UFO.
Do you think space alien aircrafts are real?
There's a gentleman, doctor, who claims to have worked at Area 51.
Bob Lazar.
That guy. I think his stories are pretty compelling.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe them. It'd be hard to believe them because you have to put aside several rules of nature, several things that I believe.
Yeah.
And that make living easy. Things like the laws of physics.
What I liked hearing him talk was he was saying how we think of things as linear, and we perceive everyone else like if the other civilizations in the universe started the same way we did, so like, oh, they had a steam engine, they had a gas engine, but they're far more advanced. Like, well, what if they started at with this kind of combustion or this kind of engine, and
Gravity engine.
Yeah, and have grown from that. Like how I think he talks about element 115 is the thing that creates that gravitational barrier, or what powers this thing.
So they say.
So like, what if they started with that, and they've progressed from there?
Yeah.
And we don't perceive it that way.
No, I definitely agree. It would be silly to think that other planets worked the same way as this planet. There's all reason that we're only the ones here.
Yeah.
But there's got to be shit out there. I think they've found worms. They found evidence of worms in water on Mars before. So that's life in Mars right there. So it'd be stupid for me to say no. The universe is pretty damn big. And it would be just as foolish to say there's absolutely no racism in the police force as to say we are alone in the universe. That's also pretty dark. We're the only ones? We really the only motherfuckers that figured out how to talk to each other? Come on, man.
You never know, dude.
That's selfish. So self-righteous, too. I'm not king of nothing, bro. I don't know. I'm not anything special. I'd imagine there's 15 of me out there in the universe. Just some guy with long hair. Or maybe he's green. And he's like, oh, my head's so big. I wish my head was smaller like so-and-so.
Dude, it's so weird thinking about, like, when you're little and you think, at least I used to think these things. And we've talked about this before, how when I was little, it's like no one else has the same birthday that I do. I'm the only person that was born on this day. For sure. Or like,
that's my birthday.
Yeah, exactly. Or, this town is basically, like, where I live is basically Earth. Like, this is what I know, so here's what it is. And then as you get older, you're like, oh, Earth is where we live. And then all of a sudden, and then you learn about the universe and shit, and then you realize how small, how infinitesimal, like, how unimpressive we are.
Are you saying you like that?
No, that scares me a little bit.
It sounds, to put it in words that I understand, it sounds like as you grow and learn more, you figure out that what you actually know is less. If there's this many thing, and you know this much about it, you think you know everything, and then you know this many thing, or you realize there might be this many thing, and you're like, oh fuck, I only know this many thing when there's this much. Really, there's that much, and as you grow, that part scares you, or you don't like that.
Yes.
That the fact that you don't know everything.
What you just said is a great segue into one of my topics.
Thing.
No, knowledge.
Knowledge
is what is it?
Is power.
It's subjective.
You mean absolutely? What do you mean?
Yes. No.
Wait. Yes.
When you think about, for example, for schooling, you could have the kid who has straight A's, 4.0 student. Like, that guy's really fucking smart. Whereas then you got this kid who's like, oh, he's a 2.6 average GPA. Doesn't do it, but it's only because he doesn't do his homework. He doesn't put in the effort to do the assignments. This kid could be just as smart or smarter than the kid who turns in all his assignments, aces all the tests, all that shit. But we don't perceive it that way. We think, well, he just doesn't try hard. He's fucking stupid. Whereas, and then we see the other kid. He's successful. He puts in all the work, and he's much smarter than that other kid. When they could be equally,
bright.
Equally bright. Yes.
I challenge the notion that might be an issue with representation. That specifically, that example might be an issue with representation. I don't know if knowledge as a word to me means a little bit something different. I think, and stop me if I'm wrong. I think what you're getting at is smarts or capability, or a person's aptitude is subjective. One person's better at something than another person, or they may be the very same good at a similar thing, but it's represented differently.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Aptitude, especially in the public school system, is terribly misrepresented.
Yeah. Well, and it's terrible because we push kids to go to college, spend all this money, but at the same time we don't give equal opportunities. We don't go.
We?
Well, as a society, we don't go, you have a 4.0, you have a 2.6. You might know the same shit, but you're going to be able to go to Harvard, and you're only going to be able to go to community college. Like
What's the idea here?
Like these schools, basically the knowledge or the smarts, these schools, they don't care about, helping these kids get to where they want to be. Or say the 2.6 student, he wants to work hard, but just doesn't have the capability or the need to work hard, but he's just as intelligent as the kid who has the 4.0. And he's like, I've always dreamt of going to Harvard. I just don't want to put in the work to get that 4.0, or I don't want to do the assignments because I fucking know the shit. I just don't want it. And Harvard goes, well, that's going to lower our average GPA. That's going to discredit us, And so we don't, as a society, Harvard wouldn't go, let's take this kid because he does know shit and he can explain all these things just as well as the 4.0 student can, but he just didn't try hard enough.
I don't disagree with what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and I, as a person, understand you. I think it might be a little bit difficult for somebody on the outside, and I want to try and break it down here and help me out with this. But are we discussing subjective knowledge or subjective aptitude within people, or are we slamming the public school system? I'm down for either. I just want to know which one to expand on.
It all ties into one.
I agree with you. There's absolutely people who are built to pull green chain at a logging company.
Yeah.
And there's people who are built to make rockets that go into space.
Yeah.
And I don't think our default, especially not the one that we went to, public school system, is built to cater to that. I think kind of what you're saying in longer words is that our public schooling system, and I'd hate to say as a society, I want to get away from that as a society excuse, but our public schooling system and the people in charge of our public schooling system are rewarded based on meeting certain criteria.
Yeah.
Those criteria being test scores, being, what's that fucking word? Representation. You know how Indian American people or Native American people get to go to school because they are Native American. There's a word for that. But there's a fucking word. What does it mean when you have this, like this right here? You have to meet this thing in a balance sheet. This little thing right here. It's when police give you a speeding ticket, it's because they have a quota. So there's a quota for those different. I don't want to say races because that's stupid. There's a quota for meeting these different. There are different quotas. They are based on the color of your skin, your nationality, where you came from, and that's not a subject or that's a fact. Yeah. That is how things are, and that may or may not be right, but it's built with good intent, I believe. But it doesn't really fit everybody's. It's like you were saying. It's not built to fit everybody. It's built to meet numbers, meet quotas, and that is not necessarily ideal to help everybody learn properly. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes.
I got a cramp in my back. It's killing me.
Is that chest workout we did?
I don't know what's going on. It's unfortunate. I don't like that either. I don't like that there are certain quotas in schools and stuff like that based on stuff that really shouldn't matter. We're all humans. The school should be there for people who, and this is my personal belief, this is no longer facts. The school should be there for people who are good at learning and want to continue to learn. And then there should be other options that are just as viable, just as encouraged as college is, because college is definitely heavily encouraged. There's a whole governor that was making her entire campaign in the left based on college will be mandatory. College will be mandatory. Regardless if that's what you want to do or not, college will be mandatory. That's absurd. And it just doesn't work for people. It's not always about making money. This stems into bigger, larger arguments, but some people just want to have a family. Their version of success is having a family. And that's great. That should be encouraged. That's probably an American attitude. I'm going to fix this camera. But yeah, the public school system currently definitely rewards things that aren't necessarily about aptitude or learning. They're about, can you get high scores on these things?
Yeah.
If so, yes, great, good, next.
Yeah.
And then you got to ship them up and ship them out. We are a lot like tuna cans in a factory. Fill up the tuna can, seal that motherfucker, put the label on it, next.
Yeah.
If you screw up one step, it doesn't get sealed, kick that bitch back, seal it again. That's it. Tuna cans, dude. Yeah, they're gonna slam the public school system all day if we can do that, but
fuck them.
it's an interesting tangent from people's aptitude being different for people. That's all I got.
You know what I despise about schooling is that there's no, or it's
Wait, before you start, I just want to make it a point. Schooling is different from learning. Learning and growth are great. I think you believe that. I know I believe that. You're talking specifically about how schooling is handled in America, public system. Continue.
So, they're trying to get your food, dog.
That's fine. They want some oatmeal, bro. It's just oatmeal.
Want some oats. Is one, they don't pay the teachers enough, depending on where you...
In Oregon.
That's fucking disgusting.
That's a serious problem in Oregon, is that teachers are underpaid.
Yeah. And so, it's fucked because it's like, oh, go to school for X amount of years, get into all this debt, unless you can afford, or, you know, how you and Melissa were fortunate enough to go the opposite route to where you don't have all the massive debt. But do all these things to become an educator and then get paid ass to deal with little fuckheads for 8 hours a day, 200 days a year. That's problem A. Problem B is and it's kind of fucked. It's going against what I just said with this guy and this guy, but with the sense of people who want to learn or who are better at learning, how they're put in the same class as the people who might take a little longer or might have a harder time. Because I remember from science and math always came really easily to me, and I would hate when we learned something and then they'd be like, all right, can we move on? And then there's the kid, well, actually, and the teacher just explained how it worked, and they go, well, what? And then the teacher would have to re-explain the whole thing while maybe the whole class was thinking, I didn't understand it either. I'm glad that person stepped up. But then the people who do understand it, like myself, would just be like,
it's detrimental to those with the aptitude for that subject.
Yeah.
Here's one for you. So if only there was some way to test that, right? What if you could prove that you had that aptitude and you were capable of, like, oh, I can reciprocate this subject? Because that's another problem that we haven't talked about, is it's really just, I'll spew this into you, you'll baby bird it back, and then next. And it's not really, that's what they call education.
Yeah.
What if you could test or do this thing that could put you ahead of that? That's possible, right? We took them. There's regular tests, paper test. Boom, everybody takes the test. If you pass it, you go on.
Yeah.
That already happens. It may not be happening perfectly, but that already happens. It's a big system. There has to be considerations for that.
Yeah.
We're now fixing the public school system. Fucking
Borden Allen, 2024.
Oh yeah,
president.
Isn't there an age limit? You have to be 35, I think. JFK was the youngest.
We can change that. Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. Was it Kanye running in 2020?
Fucking everyone's always
Kanye 2020.
Yeezy's running for president. The Rock and Oprah should team up and run for president. Fuck no.
I don't want to be president.
They're celebrities.
That's too much responsibility. What if somebody came up to you and they're like, hey, bro, Iraq just shot a missile at our embassy. What are we going to do about it? Fuck him, bro. Bomb him.
No, you just
let it loose.
The president just delegates. They're like, well, I have a guy for that, so.
Oh, you think so?
Go talk to that motherfucker.
That's good.
That's how it is. He's literally, the president is just a face for the other shit. He really has no power at all.
No way.
Trump's
turning off Twitter right now.
He's the commander in chief. He fucking tells us what to do. That is horseshit. People script his conversations. Trump, however, is different from previous presidents. Trump is just like, I'll say what the fuck I want. I don't give a shit. I'm here. But other presidents in the past and in the future, probably from now on, everything's scripted. They really have no power. They could go, I want to shut down schools today, and the Congress is going to be like, fuck no. You're not doing that.
No, sir.
I want to bomb fucking Iraq. And then, whoa, hold down there, bud. They really have no say in what goes on. They could, that's what's terrible about our how things work and how we go, oh, let's vote for this person because he said the right things during the debate. We're going to change schools. We're going to change this, blah, blah, blah. Out of each presidency, each president maybe accomplishes one of the 10 things they promised,
Uh-huh.
and rarely is it education, jobs, this, that, this. Like Obama, I'm gonna give us free college. I'm gonna increase minimum wage, do this, that, this. He got us Obamacare, which is kind of ass. And that Trump has basically already been like, fuck that. We're no longer doing Obamacare. So it's really just, we need someone to be the face of our country and talk to other, like fucking North Korea is just like, we have one person, wasn't elected, he's there, and he does dictate every fucking thing we do. He just makes the decisions. Whereas we're like, here's a person who's gonna be there for maybe 8 years, and he's just gonna talk and mumble, and then we're gonna bitch about him on the news because we need content.
So are you saying this is better or worse than having Kim Jong-un?
North Korea. I think it's. I don't think there should be a one person.
What you're saying
to rag on and just be a face of something. I think we should. I'm sure there's another system out there.
It'd be nice if we all worked together, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like that's happening. Two sides of the aisle, nobody's working together. It sounds like what you're saying contradicts itself a little bit, because you're talking about how the president can't really do anything, and then you talk about, or at least I'm hearing this. Tell me if I'm wrong.
My fucking arms hurt so. I'm trying to sit here, and my arms like shaking.
that Kim Jong-un is in charge of everything, and then you say both of them are bad. What's the alternative, I wonder?
You got the Queen of England. She doesn't really do shit. She's basically Kim Jong-un off the steroids, right?
Kim Jong-un's on steroids?
No, but like,
why is he so fat?
Think of him as pro bodybuilder, and then think of the Queen as like CrossFit, right? Like, she gets shit done. But she does tell you, like, what's up, here's what's going on, but not, you're doing what I fucking want you to do. You're shopping at the stores, no fucking internet. You don't even know what Netflix is.
Dude.
Like, we're not regulating you at all.
I love that. That is a clip right there. The Queen is CrossFit, and Kim Jong-un's pro bodybuilding. That's fucking awesome. That's awesome.
The quote of the century right there.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, there's a lot going on in all of that statement. The republic that we live in is it grants us a lot of the freedom that we take for granted. You said earlier that the president can't do this thing, but you read it in books all the time, and you've seen it throughout history where a government just goes crazy. Hitler rolls in at a time of Germany downtrodden after World War I. They're not really making anything. They're not really doing anything. And he's like, oh, we're going to do stuff now. We're going to make Volkswagen Beetles. They're going to be sick. They're going to sell a lot. And we're going to start a war with everyone. And that's fucking crazy. If he would have said that from the jump, nobody would have believed him. It's just, you got to catch it halfway through, I suppose. But it's always possible for that bitch to turn around. And I think a lot of the angle you're coming from is very Texas, very, we have guns. You can't do that. We won't let you do that. But there's got to be a line somewhere where somebody's got to draw it. Suddenly masks are mandatory. Suddenly you can't go to Winco. You get food rations. Yeah. And suddenly it's unlawful to leave your home, right? This is all crazy, absurd shit that isn't too far outside of what has happened for the last 3 months. Yeah. And if it were to happen and you were to have to stop it, there's a lot of action there that nobody really accounts for. Everybody thinks, oh, you can't do that because it's unlawful. You can't do that because it's America. But it's absolutely possible. And at some point, you as a person, we as a people have to stop that. And that's where shit gets dicey. That's where people confuse rioting and looting Target for justice for George Floyd. That's where the right to keep and bear arms turns into fucking, I don't know.
I was about to get to that.
Civil war.
What I think is fucked is we value certain things, or how am I trying to word this or put this? I think the reason our system fails, or the reason why it doesn't fail, but the reason how you're saying, like Hitler came in and said, I'm going to do these things, and then different shit's going to come out of that, is he was in power for such a long period of time.
Did you say Hillary?
Hitler.
Okay, I was very confused.
I had a burp, so I was like, I was struggling through words. But it's every 4 years there's a new person, and so every 4 years things kind of change, because now we're fucking dealing with what our image is, because again they don't really have power. It's what the image is of that person. Like Obama's was like, oh, we're more relaxed. We're kind of stress free. Things are different. And then Trump is, let's attack this motherfucker.
Fuck China.
Yeah, right. Like everything's high stress, and I think that's where it's like, and then when it comes to that, it's like, well, we change a president every 4 to 8 years. Why not our Constitution? Why shouldn't that be updated every X amount of years? Because, the right to bear arms, that made sense in 1776.
When you were talking about cavalry weapons, not AR-15.
Yeah, exactly, and it's like that's exactly it explains what kind of weapons you have the right to bear, basically. Whereas now it's like, yeah, exactly, it's I got my fucking musket in the back of my truck.
Well, you say it's all fun and games till I pull up with an actual fucking cannon, and then that shit's gonna do some damage.
Well, exactly, and if the Constitution was, and they even, I think it was Ben Franklin, or it might have even been in the Constitution. They said every X amount of years. I don't fucking pay attention. I don't know.
We should. It's
like
detrimental not to.
It's a long document.
Let's read the document.
But
hey, pull up the document right now for us. I'm gonna read this bitch. Pull up the document.
Jamie. But yeah, it's if every 10 years. So now it's like you have the right to bear arms, but those arms are this kind of pistol, this kind of shotgun,
I can't solve this one for you. I don't have like a good answer like I have for the past 3 subjects we talked about. I think that, God, I hate saying that. It's so redundant. I'm obviously telling you what I think. I don't need to tell you that I think it because I'm fucking thinking it. Anyway, we can point out all these flaws, but they are there by design. These checks and balances that cause nothing to get done, or so people say, that they're there so that Hitler can't happen in our country.
Yeah.
They are there by design to purposefully slow down the progress of masks becoming mandatory, staying in your home for 6 months becoming mandatory, taking away your guns and all that shit is not meant to happen in America. But the very fact that you and I can sit here on this computer with our little microphones, the people listening and watching can sit on their computer and do whatever job they're doing, whatever job they want to do. The pursuit of happiness is a very American thing. People don't get to do that. Like, you don't get to, I don't want to do my job today, so I'm going to quit and find something else to do. People don't get to do that in India or wherever they're born. They're just rice paddy farmers for the rest of their whole life. But we have a whole lot of freedom that people take for granted, and that freedom, that very freedom that we get from all these crazy things, is what allows us to point out these faults in the system. And so you really got to take the bad with the good. People who complain about all this shit with no real understanding of how good they have it, that's really the problem. We can talk about the problem in the system. The real problem is the people who just really don't understand it, how good they've got it. Be thankful for your shit, bitch.
But at the same time, like, how would you define freedom? Like, you
what we're doing right now.
You could, I know, but you could
we're not
say
censored.
You could say, like, exactly that's a form of freedom. At the same time, it's like we have freedoms, but at the same time, you have to have a job or some sort of income to live within your means or do what you're doing. You have to abide by these laws to be able to live in a functioning society. You're free to an extent.
I cannot accurately or believably say to you that every human has a set of inalienable rights, but every American that I can think of has a set of inalienable rights. You cannot come into my house and take my things without repercussions. There will absolutely be consequences if you come into my Target and you steal my shit. If you burn down my Target, there will be consequences. You cannot assault me without consequences. These consequences are the opposite of the freedom. So, like, your freedom is that you can walk into the mall without fear of being robbed.
Yeah.
And if you are robbed, those consequences are what keep that freedom available. I'm trying to think of a word. There's definitely a word for it. A tool, a utility that allows that freedom to exist. It'd be tough to boil the entire military, but the entire military is a utility to assert our freedom. And there are countries, you see it in the news, you see it in history books, where people can't get on a computer. They can't buy a computer and put themselves and their thoughts and their topics, their ideas out on their cell phone, out on their thing for people to hear. We are able to sit in this house and think however we want to without fear of consequence. That's freedom.
Yeah.
There are people who don't get that. You see it in the news all the time. There are dudes who try to cross that no man's land in between North and South Korea, and if you try to do that, you
Bam!
just get killed. That's
Yeah.
not freedom. That's death.
Uh,
And there's people who take that freedom. They take their little cell phone. This is my right. I get that. Bullshit. You are awarded that because you luckily were birthed here. Whoop-de-doo.
kind of a change of subject.
Yeah, I'm getting hyped.
I know. Have you ever wondered? It kind of goes along with what you're saying. I have no right speaking on this. I have no right speaking on this, and I'm sure there is reasoning behind this, but you know how we've sent troops over to Afghanistan. There's people currently from America in Afghanistan, Iraq, wherever, blah blah blah. Like as a form of police or serving in that area, and it's why is that? Like why isn't our military in America ready to go fuck shit up? Like North Korea, you don't just have a North Korea military chilling in Baghdad or fucking India or some shit. They are there for if shit hits the fan, we're gonna fuck shit up. Or pretty much any other country you can say. You don't have Mexican military up in America going, we're gonna help you guys. We're allies. We're gonna police, Chicago. We're gonna be up here and help you guys out.
Are you asking me why, or are you going to get to a why?
That is not. I'm not necessarily asking you. It's more of a trying to figure out like why is it that we are obligated to be like, all right, we're gonna chill over in Afghanistan or wherever the fuck we are. You know, we have military bases and troops chilling in Thailand where they get to ride fucking elephants if they want and just chill. It's like why
Have you?
why do we have it where we are across the world? And
What sort of answer are you looking for?
I don't really know. It's just
I can give you an answer that
I've thought about this and I'm like, why the fuck aren't we just
I can give you an answer that will rest your mind that I'm sure you will agree with.
okay?
But
Tell me, brother.
But there's a lot of people who won't agree with it. It's not like there's a right answer, but there's an answer where it may follow your beliefs. It may fall in line with what you believe to be right.
Okay.
And there's a long history of
so cold.
there's a long history of America and the Middle East. Might start with Ronald Reagan and the Iranian Contra. But in your lifetime, in my lifetime, it's about the Taliban. Yeah. The Taliban is the insurgents, is what they call them, but they're just not good dudes, and they roll up and they kill people and they kill government officials and anybody who doesn't agree with them.
I'm gonna turn this off. I'm listening.
Anybody who doesn't agree with them. And so the West, historically, America as a central, we've always been the purveyors of freedom. We have to do what's right. It's not right for people to be in their homes being slaughtered for no good reason or reasons we don't agree with. And so historically, they've called upon America or the West to come help them because we are technologically advanced. We are in a really good spot with a great economy. We have all these freedoms and abilities that other ones don't have. So you got to look out for your neighbor. As a human thing, that's absolutely right. You should look out for your neighbor. Like if your neighbor was being attacked and he said, "Hey, come help me." Are you going to sit here? Are you going to sit here and film it, or are you going to run out there and help him?
If George Floyd's sitting on the ground, you gonna fucking help him? Yeah.
Yeah, it's everybody reacts differently to that, and that's why there's so many different answers to this.
But the question is, and like
historically, America's the purveyor of freedom. That's why we are where we are. Because when it comes down to it, when you're asked, are you going to watch the Taliban destroy Afghanistan, or should we send some of our dudes over there to help? That's why.
Well, I know, but then at the same time, it's like it's never ending, you know.
We've been there for 20 years.
Yeah, like
it is ending.
In our lifetime, it's like we went over there.
It is ending.
Is it?
It is ending officially. Trump signing the orders to remove all Americans from Afghanistan. Currently, there are Taliban forces in Afghanistan who will just continue doing what they've been doing for the last 20 years, or at least that's the belief. I can't say that. That's an opinion. But there's Taliban there. America is kind of there as a security force, but we are being pulled out entirely and completely, like you're asking for. And in the next 5 years, it's going to be the same situation.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, when will it end? You know, it's like,
what is it?
Whether we're there or not, like the terror or the taking over the land,
as a whole, or just in the Middle East?
Being the Hitler of the Middle East, you know, like
in the Middle East.
Yeah, the Taliban. We've been there for fucking 20 years, and yeah, we've drastically reduced their population, their support, blah blah blah. But then we're gonna leave. It's gonna go back to being the same shit. You know, the Mexican cartel. The Mexican cartel basically does the same shit the Taliban does, but we're just like, we're not fucking with those guys. Like, and they're our fucking neighbor. They're right next to us. They're part of the same continent, and we're like, let's fly 3,000 miles, probably more than that, to a different country on different soil, and help these people. We're gonna do some shit, kill some people, but then when we leave, it's gonna go back to the same shit.
It's really difficult to argue with anecdotal evidence because you're saying all these things and they may not be wrong, but it's really hard to argue with the way you're saying it. But if you use stats and you use facts, I tried my best to give you a starting year and progress throughout that with things that have happened. There's a lot of issues with, we get a lot of the negative news and not a lot of the positive news, as with every other thing. But at the heart of it, I'm sure it's just the system run by people with good intent, doing as it's intended to its best ability to do, and it just happens to be in the Middle East. Your question of when will it end? Whenever the dudes at the Taliban want to stop being wrong. Like, whenever they want to stop killing people, we'll stop showing up.
Yeah.
And as far as Mexico goes, they don't pay me enough to figure that. I don't know. I don't know.
Have you ever thought, I've thought about this before, how weird it would be? Like, we have that perception, we have that view, because that's all we've ever seen is like desert, wasteland, just like basically underdeveloped cities.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that's where the war zones are. Yeah, that's where the war zones are. That's where shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine a war zone being like Beijing, China, or Los Angeles.
Urban?
Yeah.
How about Hong Kong?
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine, like, none of this insane shit ever happens in rural, or not rural, but like large cities.
Does none of it happen there, or do we just not see it as much? Have you ever personally sought out that information?
No, I'm sure it happens, but it's not like we have tanks rolling through fucking downtown Los Angeles shooting this fucking building full of people.
So you're saying in America? Or just in Afghanistan?
In general, like, Afghanistan's basically just, like, you wouldn't go there for vacation. It's basically just like a war zone, like
in your brain.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Like,
in American brains.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, if you were to fly to Afghanistan, you'd be like, shit's probably gonna happen, and you could have the greatest time ever. You could have some sort of vacation in Afghanistan, but the way it's been perceived over time, it's like, I'm not gonna go to, or like Vietnam, like shit went down there, but now it's like a beautiful escape. You could go to Vietnam and have a great vacation. You go stay in a lodge, this. It's a magical place. And it's also because it's rainforest and cool shit. But then you're like, Afghanistan's just a fucking desert, and it's been depicted in so many movies and the news that you're like, oh, that's where wars happen.
So what's the point here?
There's no
that Afghanistan's a shithole.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's accurate.
I'm sure. Exactly, but
that's the point. Is that we don't know.
We're shown that.
That's right.
And then, like, you wouldn't think of, Los Angeles or New York as a shithole, but if there's tanks and planes and drones and shit flying around shooting things down, you're like, what the fuck?
So you're getting the fact is the idea that we think of that way. That's what we think of it, regardless of if it's true. That's the problem.
Yeah. Well, and
because
like picture if like all this, like the Taliban was just gone, and then Afghanistan had, and I'm sure Afghanistan's a country, right? And then there's towns, cities with it. Sure.
Your ignorance is showing.
Sure. I don't fucking know. But then they had time to build, and there became like full city complexes, like a New York in fucking Afghanistan. If you were to see a war going on there, you'd be like, what the fuck? It's the fact that the cities are like shit brick, and it's like,
you're thinking Osama's household.
Dirt,
is the whole
just
thing.
dirt and land. Exactly. It's like dirt and fucking land. Like if they moved to where's the Dubai? Yeah, if they moved to Dubai and started having a war there, you'd be like, what?
Isn't it great that you and I have like a hive mind?
Yeah. I know. I was about to say Burj Khalifa before I got it out. You're like, Dubai. But yeah, it's in the desert. It's in that same setting. but it's such a industrialized. It's a built up city.
So what's the point to it, though? You keep talking about this. What's the point to it? Would it be more or less important? I don't get it.
Exactly that. Like
you're asking if it would. If
no,
it would be.
exactly. Like if the fact that's in the shittier rundown area, it's like that makes sense. It's not a big deal. Whereas if it was in Dubai, people like it'd be fucking all over the news, like war in Dubai, and this.
So you're saying the expectation is that Afghanistan is a war zone?
Yeah, and like there's never not saying never, but it's like there's never going to be a war in New York City, or there's never going to be a war in Paris. Like that it doesn't seem feasible because of how it might be, the population and how things have grown. I don't know what I'm trying to get here.
No, so the environment of a war zone is what dictates if there can be a war there or not?
Yes.
So what happened when there was a war in New York when they fucking blew a plane into 2 buildings?
I'm not saying they blew up these 2 buildings.
All conspiracy aside.
But then
that's an act of war in New York.
At the same time, then it wasn't Taliban troops floating in on boats and taking over New York, and then we're rolling in tanks and doing these things. They knocked down our 2 buildings. We're going to fly hundreds of thousands of troops, thousands of miles to go fight on their turf and destroy their area.
So wouldn't that just be the evolution of warfare? Because they don't pull up with 16 ships to the fucking, what's that bay? The Hudson Bay. They don't pull up with 16 sailboats anymore. Is that what you're getting at? They should have pulled up with 16 sailboats, or?
Yeah. Well, and like think of it this: what if we were like?
I'm so confused. I don't understand. Just saying things.
I know. I'm trying to find a point here, but you go like say if we were the terrorists and we were to go bomb. Say we were to go bomb or fucking shoot down a big building in Afghanistan. It was like reverse. If we were to fuck up one of their buildings, would they then fly thousands of their troops to America and be like, we're gonna tear down fucking New York and like try to take over your country?
Maybe.
But probably not.
They absolutely could. Just like you're saying they probably not. The same anecdote could be that they absolutely could. It's what's the word? Power aside, political power, firepower aside, if you wanted to fuck somebody's base up, that'd be a good place to start.
Yeah.
And it's not like they don't have access to the same missiles or anything.
Yeah.
They can just buy a missile, ride a boat over, and launch that bitch right at a building.
And I think the whole reason is because it comes down to population density. Like Afghanistan, there's X amount of people, not nearly as populated as America. They were to come to America, every gun-toting person would be like, okay, I'm now enlisted. I'm now going to fuck up these people because they're now on my soil, and we would easily take them over, and that'd be it.
So you've just answered your own question,
I guess. Yeah.
What is you're talking to yourself here. What is even fucking?
I was feeling a
ranting about the Middle East.
You weren't going off of it, so I
was just trying to find the point. You were just going on.
I was Alex Jones in this.
Yeah, we might have been out of our depth there on the Middle East. My brother's getting deployed to Dubai. It looks like a lot of fun. Dubai.
I know. I want to go there sometime.
They got a good bodybuilding scene over there.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait, no, that's Kuwait.
Both.
Really?
Yeah.
No.
I don't think there's anything they don't have in Dubai. They got lakes in the middle of a fucking desert.
I know.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
They're the world's tallest building and trillions of dollars. I think they're doing this.
And they don't wear underwear, dude. Just robes. That's fucking sick.
We should start doing that.
Just robes.
Nice, dude.
Be sick, dude.
Then you
chubby though.
You get a fucking breeze and woo!
It's also raining all the time, so you might as well just be naked.
Yeah.
It'd be like a wet t-shirt contest the whole time. We didn't even really explain virtue signaling or commitment signaling.
No.
Long rant about Afghanistan there, buddy.
Fuck 'em. I mean, I guess we have had a war here. We had the Civil War. But at the same time, it was back before things were developed. We didn't really have
There was no West then.
Big blossoming. Exactly. I mean, we didn't have huge blossoming civilizations. It was like this is technically your farm. Like you can just literally go out and be like, I want this field.
This is mine.
This is mine. Yeah. I built the fence. This is mine.
This is mine.
Whereas now it's like, here's set boundaries. You're allowed to purchase this. And I don't think we would ever be like, Western Oregon's going to war with Eastern Oregon. We're going to fuck them up,
it'd be. I worry that you are demonstrating what is a lot of the difficulty in talking about these subjects with people. Is you can point fingers all day, but at some point you got to step back and realize that there is bad with the good. Hindsight is 20/20, and just because it's not working perfectly for everybody, it might be working for a whole lump sum.
Yeah.
And I think that's where our country's at now.
Rant over.
Stop looting fucking Target.
Stop being a fucking piece of shit and profiting off personal gain.
I think it might be time to wrap it up.
That might be our ending right there.
That was the ending. Police shouldn't kill people, just in case you thought we were on the wrong side. Nobody should kill anybody, really. That's generally bad. Kill murderers and rapists. I don't want to do it myself. I mean, but don't kill people who are forging checks. And don't loot Target in response. What the fuck is the math there?
Here's a great question. I was watching this I think it was Law and Order the other day, and this guy, it was Law and Order. This guy, he had killed a bunch of people, right? And then he escaped, or he wasn't given a death sentence, and then he escaped from prison, and then he got held up in this this school, and he killed these 5 little kids in this room. And the cops come in, he's like wanting to shoot him, and he's like, "Why'd you fucking do it?" And he's like, "Why not?" And the dad of one of the kids in the school, so this guy was, I know,
It's a fictional story, right?
I know, but it's a good one. So this guy ends up going to trial, and they're basically, in essence, it's probably gonna end up being like, okay, you're just gonna go back to jail. You're not gonna get the death sentence. So as this guy is leaving the courtroom, the dad of one of the kids shoots him and kills him.
Sure.
And then he is basically like, well, I rid this world of a terrible person because you guys wouldn't fucking do it once, and you're probably not going to do it again. Is that a terrible thing?
I think there's a
because then
long discussion to be had over that very fictional story, but it's a good vehicle for it. There's a difference between what is virtuous and what is not. And it's tough to find that in fiction, and it's sometimes even more hard to find it in real life. But that's probably the pursuit of virtuity is the right thing to do rather than what you want to do.
Word? Virtuity?
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't know what the word is for, but the pursuit of virtue, what is right, is probably should be more important and should be what is executed rather than what I want to do because so-and-so happened.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hot Ones, episode 10, coming next week.
That's right. It's going to be fun.
If you have any ideas for questions we should ask each other or topics,
keep them to yourself.
Put them in the comments below, and we might get to them. Bye, everybody.
If you're watching this shit and you ain't subscribed, push the red fucking button.
That's it. You don't have to get notifications.
You do.
You don't have to like.
You do have to do those things.
You just have to subscribe so we have more subscribers.
Do those things now and share that shit.